Hello, rock and roll. Welcome back. Welcome back to Jay's Rock and Roll Stories. I am your host, Jay, and we are wrapping up our Jimmy Nichol story. This is part 3. This is going to be the end. Let's just get back into it. Our last part of part 2 was Jimmy's requirement working for this record company in Mexico in 1967 was to find the next biggest hit, the Star of Mexico. So 1967, Jimmy teams up with this 20-year-old guy in Mexico named Eddie Quinn. And they together create a band called Los Nichol Quinn, just putting the names together. And you can hear it on YouTube. I looked it up. Los Nichol Quinn. They just made one album. It's very psychedelic pop, kind of Baroque pop. Jimmy sings on it. It flops, though. And Jimmy is very disappointed that he was not able... Because he thought that, you know, maybe this Eddie Quinn would be the next guy or whatever. But it's... My thinking is that he just really didn't think of... wasn't really thinking of the customer. Because think about it. They're going from traditional Mexican music... and they want to find a big rock star. So going from traditional Mexican music, jumping all the way over to psychedelic pop music. It's like there's a lot in between there. A lot in between. And let me give you some lyrics from a song off of the album, Los Nichol Quinn. The song is called I'm Lost. And the lyrics go, I'm badly beaten up. And as the years go passing by, I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost. And as I go on like this, I ask myself, why should I live? I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost. Now I know I won't go back, and if I do, I'll break my back. I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost. Jeez. Relax, Jimmy. It's a bit of a bummer, right? But I think that you left out a lot of music there. Like if you're just going to go from Mexican traditional music, you know, you're going to have some sort of folk rock music, you know, a little bit of like blues or something. There's a lot of in between there. So Jimmy is disappointed that he wasn't responsible for finding the next big Mexican singer. But he was found, but not by him. I think it's NBC who found it. RCA discovered Armando Manzanero. So it's sort of like a crooner, like a Paul Anka, you know, that type of like a singer with a backup band. Yeah, so that makes sense, going from traditional music to a crooner, not all the way over to psychedelic pop music. But speaking of psychedelic pop music, 1967 also was the year of Sgt. Pepper's, right? And I want to tell you a quick little story about how, because we keep talking about how Jimmy feels like, oh, no one likes me, the Beatles didn't like me, but he was on their mind. Like, here's a story from 1966. Paul McCartney is out walking his dog, Martha, my dear, right? And he has this, he wants to make a positive song. How do I make a positive song? And what came to Paul McCartney's mind after thinking of making a positive song while walking his dog? He thought of Jimmy Nichol. Because every time when they were in Australia, every time Paul would ask Jimmy, hey, Jimmy, how's it going? Hey, Jimmy, what's your experience like? Like, just, you know, checking on Jimmy. Jimmy's response was always, it's getting better. Jimmy, how's it going? It's getting better. Jimmy, how's it going now? It's getting better. It's getting better all the time. It's getting better all the time. Okay, so Paul McCartney used that for the Sgt. Pepper's album. So going back to, so it's Armando Manzanero. That was the new find by RCA. But it's not over for Jimmy. He has more work. And he gets chosen to do soundtracks. He gets a job doing soundtracks for RCA. And he does a soundtrack for a movie, 1967, by this Argentinian director called Carlos Lozano Danas. The movie is called El Mes Más Cruel, or you can English, The Cruelest Month. It was screened in Mexico in September of 1969. It was pulled from the theaters after 1 week. It didn't get a lot of buzz. I can't find this movie anywhere. I really wanted to check it out. I read that it's kind of like a sort of a French New Wave film, which I love because I love all those Jean-Luc Godard, Francois Truffaut stuff. So anyway, nothing is working out for Jimmy as in success, you know. So his idea in his head is, well, why don't I get back into that mindset of I'm the fifth Beatle again? So he comes up with this idea to do a Beatles traveling musical variety show, and he's looking for someone to help him. A friend of Jimmy contacts a relatively famous dancer in Mexico named Julia Villaseñor. And the funny thing is that Julia Villaseñor was also doing jazz and doing jazz dance in a jazz group in Sweden at the same time is when Jimmy was playing with the Spotnicks. But they never saw each other. They always crossed paths because they were busy. So they hook up, and she helps Jimmy do the project, and it's quite successful. Jimmy Nichol and a couple of other friends are dressed up as British Royal Guards with those big black hats, those poofy things. They are singing Beatles songs as Julia does her interpretive dancing. Okay, so it's kind of successful too. And Jimmy and Julia, they get married and they move into their parents' house, Julia's parents' house. They are a happy couple and they enjoy putting on these things called happenings. A happening is sort of like a spontaneous production in public. So it sort of breaks down the walls of, performer and spectator. Like we're all doing this, we're all together. So specifically, Jimmy would be playing his drums. He would have a couple other friends, band members who are playing instruments, while Julia is doing her interpretive dancing to the music. Jimmy is still quite bitter about the Brian Epstein thing, and he's convinced himself and he's convinced his new wife Julia that he was always a better drummer than Ringo, and it was shitty that he was not made a permanent Beatle. So he has a lot of anger towards this. Anyway, a lot is going on in Mexico at the time. In 1968, the Olympics are about to come to Mexico, and the government of Mexico is trying to stomp out all of these little protests that students are putting on. I want to give you a quote. Here's a quote from a Mexican music historian named Federico Rubli. He says, "We considered ourselves the new order, armed with flowers, peace, love symbols, and rock music. With the new sensorial and sound experiences as well as attitudes, we wanted to cultivate the aesthetic of revolt. But the Mexican government is not a big fan of rock and roll, so they are stomping these little uprisings out. Jimmy and Julia are there to see what's happening. Soldiers are just beating the shit out of students. They beat up people passing by. Journalists are there. Like a lot of students were killed too. So it's tragic. It's horrible. All right. Some time passes. Jimmy and Julia are drifting apart. They're not getting along, and they get divorced. But Jimmy asks Julia. He asks her parents, "Can I still live here?" And they say, "Yeah, sure, you can live here, Jimmy." So they live all together in the same house, and Jimmy and Julia continue to exist as friends. All right, moving on. 1969, Jimmy finally moves out of Julia's family's house to live with her friend. It's her friend named Gelson Gass. He is a producer, he's a director, he's an artist. He's living on a mountaintop in this big house where all of these artists would go. They come to visit, do projects, have, party. This guy Gass was creating a new film called Anticlimax. It's a psychedelic experimental film. I found this one. I found it on YouTube, and it looks like someone transferred it from VHS to YouTube, which I love because I love VHS. I was born in 81, and VHS is part of my DNA. Anyway, this movie Anticlimax, it's bad. Yes, but I love it because it looks like someone's college project or something. It's very DIY. It's very do-it-yourself. There's, for example, there's a scene in it. Okay, it's filmed on 8mm or the Bolex 16mm. It's artistically amateur, but it's cool. For example, there's a scene where an actor dressed up as a police officer asks some young hippie kid a question, and when the hippie kid responds, it's the sound of bubbles. So they're experimenting with sound and visuals. Jimmy is in the movie, and there's a neat scene where they're filming driving away on a truck, and it's just filming the street, like paint lines or whatever on the street, and there's music playing, and I know it's Jimmy. That's his music, so I like it. I like this movie. If you want to check out something a little bit different and something that a group of artists put their blood, sweat, and tears into, look up Anticlimax. I think you might have to type in Gelson Gass Anticlimax. All right. After Anticlimax, Jimmy and Julia together performed on a variety TV show called TV Musical Osart. I looked this up. I can find it, but I don't know what the Osart means. Ossart. Anyway, they did 20 or 30 episodes. After that, Jimmy and Julia start a new band. It's more into a bossa nova. But Julia really has romantic feelings for the piano player. Jimmy can't take it. He's so freaking jealous, and he leaves. And even though they are divorced, he leaves for good. He leaves a letter. One day Julia comes home to find a note. It says, "Julia, I admire you a lot. I'm very proud of your singing and leading the band. I wish you all the success. Love, Jimmy." Julia says that this is her words. "He disappeared. It's like he must have vanished. I never saw him again in my life. From that day until now, gone." Okay, he's not gone though. He does record a track at a place called Orpheon Records, a record company, a Spanish version of Jumpin' Jack Flash, with just a new band that he threw together. He throws a band. He puts together all of these bands. They never last. A band called Los Checkmates, another band called Los Flying Carpets. That's a cool name. Nothing ever pans out. And 1969, he gets hired as an independent consultant to contribute educational musical programming to radio and TV on the XHIPN Channel 11. This is Mexico's educational and cultural television channel. Basically, it's like public access, as we say here in the United States, which is probably not a bad gig. I bet you it's kind of fun because you kind of have all kind of choices. Also, Jimmy begins to prepare course curriculum for students to learn about music business and history at the National Polytechnic Institute, which was Mexico's most important public technical higher education in Mexico. So it's good gigs. After another failed attempt at getting a new band off the ground, the band was called Blue Rain, Jimmy hangs up his drumsticks, quits music, and he actually leaves Mexico City to go back home. He goes back home to London, and this is the mid-70s. Jimmy starts a business remodeling houses. Pretty successful. He visits Sweden in the late 70s to say hello to his old Spotnick buddies. And in 1983, the Spotnicks and Jimmy, they get together and they put on a TV documentary called Spotnicks, A Quarter Century of Space Pop. 1984, Jimmy and his son Howie are invited, and they're put up in a big Beatles hotel by the official Beatles fan club, the Dutch chapter in Amsterdam, to celebrate the anniversary of the Beatles' visit to Amsterdam with the canal ride and all that. Supposedly at the time, secretly sort of, Jimmy was working on an autobiography about his experience with the Beatles, about his whole story. So during the question and answer part of the convention, he held back a lot of information because all the questions coming from the press over there in Amsterdam was like, in his mind, he's probably, I want to tell you that. I'm going to put it in the book. So he gets kind of like, it was like noticeable. He was like irritated from these questions. But wrapping it up, it was fun because there's a Beatles cover band called the Clarks. They were the biggest Beatles cover band in Amsterdam. This is 1984. And they asked Jimmy to play. Could you please play with us? And so he plays drums with them. They do one song. But it was noted that it was such an amazing experience for the fans and for the members of the band. Like, this was great. He did a good job, and they played. It said Jimmy was smiling. He had a good time. But this will be known as Jimmy's last known musical performance of his life. All right, time goes by. Howie's Jimmy's son. He's becoming quite well known in sound production. And he even wins a BAFTA, which is the British equivalent of the Academy Awards. So he wins a BAFTA for the Beatles anthology of 1995 sound production. Jimmy, on the other hand, goes underground. His business is failing, and he does not want to talk about the Beatles anymore. He does not want to talk about anything that has to do with that kind of thing. So he's kind of a recluse. There's rumors that he's dead. Jimmy's dead, and everyone's trying to find him. He's dead. So what also kind of feeds the rumor is when the 30th anniversary comes around for the Beatles in Amsterdam. This the Dutch fan club president, whatever, comes to track down Jimmy and knocking on the door. The door opens and it's not Jimmy, but it's his son Howie. Hi, Howie. I just wanted to invite you guys again to come back. We'll put you up. We'll put it on the whole show. And without any explanation, without any timeline or story, Howie says, no, he's dead. Oh, yeah, he's dead. He can't go. Okay. So I don't want to be rude. I guess I won't ask any questions. So he goes back home. So it was either, the rumor is that he's dead, but but can you tell us more, So it turns out it was either Jimmy told Howie, just tell people I'm freaking dead. I don't want to talk about this shit. Or it's Howie taking it upon himself to say, no, he's not interested. Fuck it, he's dead. So, but there's the rumors that he's dead, but there's sightings here and there. Oh my God, I think I saw Jimmy on the bus. Oh, he was over here getting a haircut. So in 2005, Daily Mail UK posts pictures of Jimmy, like paparazzi style, him coming in and out of shops and stuff. So he's not dead. Calm down. He's alive. And the book ends with the author, Jim Birkenstadt, leaving the United States, going to England, trying to track down Jimmy so he can get an interview for the book. So he's not successful. He goes back to he has an address where Jimmy had been kind of hiding out, And he goes back there, and some kid answers the door who has no idea who Jimmy Nichol is. Oh, crap. So he tracks down a private eye, and the private eye says, yes, that unit is owned by Jimmy, but he's subletting it, but I can't find him. So he can't find him. The author, Jim Birkenstedt's daughter, is living in Australia at the time. So he's like, you know what? Shit, I'll just go down to Australia. So he goes down to Australia to see family and does some work down there, does some detective work. They track down birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses. But there's a handful of people named Jimmy Nichol. So there's kind of dead ends. Finally, the author finds a marriage certificate. I think it was 1974, marrying in England, but to a woman from Mexico. So, where is Jimmy? Jimmy, like at this point in the book, I literally was like, Jimmy, if you're listening to this podcast, send an email, okay? Send an email to Jay's Rock and Roll Stories at proton.me, and I promise I will not ask anything about the Beatles. I'm going to ask questions about Los Nicole Quinn and Anticlimax. I'm digging it. I want to know more. All right, fast forward, right? So, Jim Birkenstedt had been working 20 years on this project, right? Searching through all of these things, the death certificates, marriage licenses, all these things, and other people named Jimmy Nichol. Finally, right? He tracks him down. So, I have to tell you, Jimmy is alive. He is married to a woman in Mexico named Josefina. He lives in Mexico. He's alive today. We found him. Okay, but that's all we know. Because I'm pretty sure, that Jim Birkenstedt found Jimmy Nichol, and Jimmy Nichol said, crap, you found me. All right, this is all I want to tell you for your book. You can tell them I live in Mexico. And that's it. So in the book, Jim Birkenstedt relays that Jimmy Nichols expressed a desire that no one knows his address or much about him. So it's like, oh shit, you found me, but you can't tell anybody. Well, anyway, that's great. That's okay. Jimmy, I hope you have a fantastic life in Mexico with your wife, Josefina. That's it. That's the story of Jimmy Nichol. That was a cool book. Thank you so much for the reps of Jim Birkenstedt. Thank you for sending this to me. I really enjoyed it. And to tell you the truth, I really want to, at some point, I want to pick up another book by Jim Birkenstedt, that one called the Beatles Underground. It's about the bootleg stuff. All right, anyway, if you enjoyed this podcast, if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor. Give me 5 stars. Give me a comment. Do me something nice. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming back. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, shout outs, you can write me an email at Jay's Rock and Roll Stories at proton.me. There's a podcast. There's a Facebook. Go online, find it on Facebook. At some point I'll get to Twitter and on this, that, and the other, and I'll get a website for you. I have a full plate, but anyway, I'm happy. I'm glad you're happy. Thanks for coming back. And I'll see you next time. We're going to do something different, all right? Take care. Bye.